There we go.
Right. There we go. Yeah, we're on. Special guest tonight, Kenny Navitsky. You can call him Mr. Navitsky, please. He is a guy been through it this term along with me and along with Dan Peta, and we lived it. And we're having a special broadcast tonight, which I think we should have done a lot earlier, just to have conversations about issues. And Kenny Navitsky, thank you for coming on a podcast tonight to have these conversations. This is great, man. Good to see
It's
you.
awesome to be back with you, man. It's when you're in the trenches, and you and I spoke very often during the campaign, and you spoke of your days being back in high school, being a center and taking all the shots. And, we had talked at length many times about strategy and things that we thought we could do to help one another, and Dan as well. And we're just in a very challenging district. We really are. And we all know that going into it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of all of us. I'm especially proud of you. You just went in and did your own thing. You went from being somebody that always carries the public torch and is out there fighting for, less taxes and more common sense in school boards and things like that. And you do a lot of it uh, at the meetings. And then you kind of just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go in and put my hat in the ring. And you had some people backing you that I think surprised you a little bit.
Yeah. It felt good, and I learned a lot doing that, and also all of that. I would call it shit testing. That
Yes.
bad words are on me, but all of the shit testing where people say, "Oh, well, you should run for office instead of just being a critic," and then you do it. But I was never really merely mocking the government. I think a lot of the questions that were asked at city council meetings or in school board meetings, at county commissioners meetings, here in local government were always good questions, but we just never got it across. We were always sort of misrepresented by the press and attacked by anonymous players online and anonymous accounts, and it never ends that they plant things and then they go back and pretend to find it, and then they're like, oh well, he's such a radical. Well, can you please tell me what about spending less money on a failing system is so radical?
And not only that,
Just
the money is one thing, but I mean, just the common sense in the curriculum. I mean, we've got kids coming out of school, Wes, that are dumber than a bag of hammers, and nobody wants to hire these kids. And they're confusing them with what bathroom they should be using and whether or not they're male or female, or are they one of the other 27 things on the spectrum. And it's just sad when you think of it, because life has not gotten easier. It's gotten harder for these kids with social media. And now, when you've got all these different boxes that you have to try to figure out and fit in, and instead of learning about adding and subtracting and balancing a checkbook or using a credit card or changing a flat tire or, building something, you've got these kids that are having their minds polluted with all of this noise that you and I both know ain't going to give a damn bit of help to them when they get older. Not at all.
and it also seems that those agendas, they're losing on all the fronts. It's like our side was right about masks, our side was right about the jabs, the Fauci sauce. Our side was right about the lockdowns and the purpose of it being a reset globally of our economy, destroying us kind of deliberately. I mean, our side that was speaking on public microphones about fiscal responsibility and saving our tax money for us because we have a plan for it that's better than the government's plan for it. It just goes on and on. And when these kids get into the real world, I think they're going to find that agenda is already gone. And Rochester's always like 5 or 10 years behind the curve on anything, and I'm not really sure why that is, but we're kind of like in the Stepford Wives world where information doesn't information doesn't really get into this like cocoon that we live in inside Rochester, but outside Rochester, the information flows. You can look at our media. There's really nothing on the media that tells us what's going on in the rest of the United States, or much less the world. Nobody knows about what's happening in Iran right now, or Syria.
No.
Serious events are unfolding in Israel, the
Yep.
Ukraine, and the people of Rochester just kind of think everything's okay. It's a weird vibration.
Well, we talked to, back in 2006, 2007, when the housing market crashed and everything. If you remember that, Rochester stayed pretty hip within the realm of still moving forward, and people still had money, and the computer sector still was making jobs back then, and the Mayo Clinic, Mother Mayo, had all these jobs that were still putting money in people's pockets. So there was money in Rochester to go around, and there always has been, because we're very fortunate to be in an affluent town where there are lots of decent and high paying jobs. So we're kind of, like you said, we're kind of cordoned off. We're in this little bubble. And when I was in the debate with, Representative Hicks, and they were talking about, money and taxation and all this, and how do they still have so many Harris Wall signs up on Pill Hill? I said, it's because they're not hurting yet. They're just 10 years further down the road, ironically enough, that 10 years, because you and I, we don't have tons of money. We're not rich. And all of these money grabs that the county's doing for school board and for property taxes and all this other shit, it hurts us, and it hurts our families, and it directly has an impact on what we can do, not only today, but for our retirements. But those people that are up on the Hill making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 as a family, Wes, they're just not feeling it yet. And you know what? Shame on them for just being so ignorant to the fact that there are people in this town that are hurting. There's elderly people. There's farmers that can't pass their farm and their trade on to their children because they think there's no future. But you know what? Screw that. I guess it just doesn't matter, because they still can drive around in their $250,000 Benzes and still go to their chalets, while you and I and everybody else is just, trudging shit for everybody else. It's kind of frustrating, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's funny. There's people that live on Pill Hill that have getaway cabins in other places that are probably 4 times the size of their home here in Rochester, and their Rochester house is already huge, but they have these cabins they can go to escape the reality of Rochester on the weekends. And of course, the rest of us that live in the world that they choose for us, those of us who live in this other world of Rochester, we live in the neighborhoods where their kids come to score their drugs, or their grandkids come to score their drugs. So I feel badly that those affluent, sorry, but not to be too mean, but baby boomers, usually, they have the all are welcome here signs on their front lawn, or abolish ICE. Abolish ICE. I'm not seeing many of those anymore, but there were, like 10 years ago. Yeah,
You put this hat on, and then you go up and knock on their door, and they'll let you know how welcome you are. They'll
right.
It's virtue signaling at level 10.
Absolutely. So when about a year and a half ago, when the resolutions came to city council to put affordable housing up in their neighborhood and redesign their neighborhood and put this big apartment block up there on Pill Hill, they showed up exactly maybe 3 times to speak against that. They organized themselves, and they called out all their political chips. All the blue dog Democrats of Pill Hill turned up to city council meetings to shut that shit down. And then after they won, just like the nobles in Braveheart, just like the nobles, they bravely rode away and left the rest of us by ourselves. They don't come to help the rest of the neighborhoods in Rochester. But I don't blame them so much as the people that play them.
Yeah. They're I don't know that they're useful idiots, but everybody figures out where they fit in this scheme, and then they all use each other, and it's incredibly challenging, and here's the funny thing about it, and I think you probably feel the same way that I do. I have no ill will towards people that make lots of money. I'm a capitalist. I want you to kick ass. I want you to have an amazing vacation home. I want you to have a yacht and a jet. I encourage that. I always say, when you see those memes and everything where it's got some dude on a yacht that's 70 and he's got like a 30-year-old girlfriend, and I always say the same thing. Good for him. Good for her. Who
Yep.
cares? But it's just
You
one of
feel
those
happy
situations.
for
I
them.
want everyone to have
Yeah.
success.
You're not jealous of what they've got.
No.
You're not of the mentality that you're not thinking I have less because you have more, or
Nope.
you have more because I have less. And that is the mentality of the Democrats, that they're instilling in young people this politics of resentment, that if you have something, it's because you took it from me.
Which is sad. It's really sad because you and I had a great conversation this afternoon, and we were talking about, racism and all these things that get just thrown at people. Like, and it's a shame because they've cheapened so many terms. I mean, so many terms that used to really mean something now is just fodder for filling up the void of, people bloviating and just throwing the word out when they feel like they're tired of talking to you. So they just throw it out. I grew up down south, and none of us had anything. We just didn't have much, but we had each other, and we had Mexicans, Cubans, because I'm from Florida, and most of the people that I hung out with were brothers and sisters too from Newtown. And we never talked about race because we were all too busy just trying to watch out for each other and trying to figure out how we were going to get out of the town and were we going to be able to get scholarships and go play football and what are we going to do on the weekend? Whose house are we going to hang out at? And kids today, they don't have that innocence anymore, Wes, because they're getting it just rammed down their throat, man. We just all held it down together. We didn't give a damn if you were black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Mexican. As long as you were cool, you were with us. And that was the thing. And today we see it all the time. It's, safe space this, and you're privileged because of that. And man, we just never had to worry about that stuff. Things have just gotten so out of control, and it's a shame because life is hard enough. And these these people that are virtue signaling all these new things into these kids' heads and polluting their minds with things that, unfortunately, I was hoping that Dr. Martin Luther King solved many, many years ago with his content of one's character, not the color of their skin remark. And
Right.
how far away from that are we? And it seems like
They turned it upside
regressing.
down.
We're
They
backwards.
turned it around. They made race the most important thing. They made the color of your skin the most important thing. They turned it, they flipped it. It's bizarre. Talk about compromising talk about completely co-opting a movement and perverting its actual message. They corrupted it thoroughly. And then we're not supposed to mention, hey, Dr. Martin Luther King's dream was that his children and grandchildren be judged by the content of their characters instead of the color of their skin, like you said. And we were taught that was instilled in us. We were steeped in that truth. And we're like, you know what? That's actually true. That content that he said, that's actually right. Gosh, and they shot him. That's a terrible thing. So we actually believed it. Whereas the cynical interpretation of that today is, and I mean, not to be too crude, but if you have a black or brown correct genitalia, then you're the person that's going to get the job or the contract. You're the one that's going to be ushered into the wall. I mean, it was, and people are going to criticize me for having said that, but it was Joseph Potato Head Piss Pants Biden himself who said that his vice presidential candidate was a diversity hire. He actually said that the reason she was going to run as vice president with him is that she had a brown private part. And then, that is sick. That's bizarre. What kind of a qualification for a job is that? And by the way, she's Indian. The African American community, all of a sudden, everybody, well, what does that mean? She's black now? Her ancestors actually owned slaves. Mine didn't. I'm guessing yours didn't. But her ancestors actually had a slave plantation. Now, How does that work out? And she never ran for anything or won anything. In fact, I'd wager you and I did better in our races than she ever did in a race. She was promoted to her job because of her special skills. Sorry, with Willie Brown in San Francisco. And that's how she got promoted. Is that a role model for a daughter? Is that a role model for how to get ahead in the world? For you
The
go down
role model.
for Willie
You
Brown
know,
and then you become his attorney general? Wow, I'm sorry. I'm going to
well,
have to.
you think of when you think of heroes in the way they handle things with such grace. Look at Denzel Washington or Morgan Freeman when they bring this stuff up. They just look at the people that are baiting him and go, "You need to stop talking about it." And don't talk to me about it because I've lived the American dream. I am here, and those are the heroes to me. I mean,
Right.
that because that harkens back to the way we were brought up, where it was
Right.
like you work your ass off, you might get some breaks here and there, but you still got to do the heavy lifting. And if you do that, it doesn't matter. Do you know how many Hispanic people in this town are successful because they've had the courage to step forward and open up restaurants or food trucks or go
Right.
into businesses for themselves? And you can go across every single racial demographic, and there are success stories all over the place, but you don't hear about them. You hear about all of the failures, and that's the worst part about it because, you know, part of chasing the American dream is putting yourself out there. And the American dream isn't white or black or Hispanic or Asian. It's for everybody and anybody that's willing to do it. Why do you think so many people are trying to come here? I mean, they're
Right.
trying to come here because they haven't had their minds polluted. Their minds are very wide open because they've lived under tyranny and they see what it's like and they're like, screw this shit, I'm out of here. And they're coming here. Now, you and I both say, dude, we have no problem with immigrants. Just come
Right.
legally. That's all I
Yeah.
ask. Just come
Right.
legally,
No,
and have something
fantastic.
to offer. Don't hop right on the welfare,
Right.
come here with the work mindset to chase the American dream and work your ass off to not be on all of these other programs. Lift yourself up and then be somebody and be that beacon, be that shining light that everybody talks about. Because we have enough naysayers, man. We can sit here and bitch and complain all night long, but instead of doing that, you and I just roll our sleeves up and say, screw it, let's go into the storm, let's make it happen. And
Yeah.
sometimes we fail and sometimes we succeed.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there were a lot of winning issues, a lot of things that succeeded in the last campaign. And what do you think were some of the winning issues? I mean, our areas were deep blue, not even purple areas where we were running. Maybe some people understood what was going to happen to us. What was the same as happened to the previous 5 or 6 candidates, since everything was turned over, back in the 80s, 90s. What if we think about some of the winning issues now that might be winning issues again in the next political season, because we're looking at trying to elect a governor in a couple of years. And we have almost flipped the House. There's a couple of court cases,
Yep.
but are there any winning issues? I mean, of course, the economy. What were the issues that you found resonated most with folks when you were on the doorstep?
Well, I think what ends up happening is if you are a blue centric area like we are, the center does not hold. Things start to fall apart. And what ends up happening is you get further and further down the road, taxation is going to still remain a very large thing because we're looking at, what is it, a $7 billion budget deficit now? And that's after just 3 years ago, we had $19 billion surplus. I mean, what
Right.
kind of crack are these guys smoking to burn through that kind of money and have virtually nothing really that you or I or anybody, let's be honest, anybody on the street, if you and I walked down the street with a camera and you were downtown Rochester and said, hey, listen, we burned through $19 billion. We added another $9 to $10 billion to it. How has that impacted your life? Give me one thing in your life that is better because of that money spent. I'll bet you, Wes,
Right.
Nobody would be able to give you anything. They give you a big damn goose egg because they'd be like, I honestly don't know of one thing that it did for me as a taxpayer, whether you're Democrat, independent, Republican, socialist, communist, conservative, they wouldn't have a damn clue. And that would be an interesting thing. So here we are, almost 30 billion. Just tell me one thing that you think that the state government has done for you to make your life better. And I don't think anybody would be able to say anything because you know why? Their taxes aren't going down. We sure as hell ain't getting rebates. Energy prices are through the roof. If you're a farmer,
Yeah.
fertilizer is expensive, on and on and on. So I think taxation is going to be a big one. And what's going to happen is that big blue center is going to start losing the edges because it's starting, and it'll get closer and closer and closer. And I think that's going to happen because farmers are going to get tired. I thought enough of them might realize that the Democrat Party that they thought they were a part of left them a long time ago, but
Wow.
it's slowly happening. I think that safety is a huge one. I mean, Wes, we have all the topics. We just don't have enough people scared or hurting to listen yet. They still go Ford, Chevy. And in our district, take your pick. It's either a hell of a lot more Fords or a hell of a lot more Chevys, and that's what people are doing. But it's getting better. It's just, I don't know how much more we have to say. When you look at that map of the country, of the red counties,
Yeah.
it's insane. So
yeah,
there was a lot made, but my heart just breaks for people that are on the verge of losing their houses, and they send out these property tax estimates.
Oh,
and it's like,
God.
oh, my property taxes didn't go up at all. You wait. Wait.
So I know myself, my property taxes went down, so to speak. So the estimate went down. However, it went down because they lowered the valuation of my property by a lot. So people have noticed a trend that they lower your valuation 2 years, 3 years, and then they jack it up. So then your property, they're kind of like staggering these property tax increases and decreases around the area. So another aspect of that is that at the bottom of your property tax estimate, you can read the fine print and the devil's in the details that it tells you straight up that your school district is scheduled to have a referendum in the upcoming election. Therefore, these numbers may be higher in the event that the school board referendum passes. And we know it did pass now. Yep. So the timing was everything for these people. I mean, it's sinister when you think about it.
Because
and now, so your valuation is false. They're just telling you straight up your valuation doesn't mean anything. And now it's going to be higher than they actually printed on the paper. Sorry, Kenny, go ahead.
My friend actually called or sent me a text message with a picture of that. He's a big lefty, and he goes, oh, so how do you explain this? Oh, look at my property taxes went down, so explain that to me. And it's like, you look at him and you go, you know what? Good for you. Do you really want me to explain it to you? Because I don't think you're going to hear me when I tell you, and you're just going to throw out a bunch of bullshit, and you're not going to hear what I'm saying. But let me rest assured, that estimate, that ain't going to be what you're paying. But that's okay. You know what? Dance in the end zone right now. Spike the ball, do your little dance. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the one getting upset because when those actual numbers come through, like you said, because that referendum went through, you're going to be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised. Just get used to it. Because it's like, how much time do you want to waste talking to people that have TDS or people that don't
not at all
anything because, their lives haven't changed. And it's like, well, okay, I'm happy that you made 220 grand a year. Good for you. And I'm really thankful, but you might want to start looking over your shoulder because they're going to get you eventually too. They ain't going to get you yet. And I'm willing to sacrifice and pay more in taxes. Dude, there's nobody stopping you for paying all your money to taxes if you want. You can literally cut a check to the government for 2 times your tax rate if you choose. So, put your money where your mouth is. And why don't you take the tax burden for some of these elderly people that are on the verge of losing their homes? How about that? Why don't you give a hero?
President Trump is donating his first salary to the veterans. So do like Trump does. And also, well, the aspect of them not comprehending their own property tax estimates, and there's parts of that that I don't understand either, but then they don't show up at meetings to question their property tax valuations, whether it's the county commissioners meeting, the city also has a property tax increase. And then of course, tomorrow, the 17th of December, right? The 17th. Yeah.
15,
Tuesday.
16?
So tomorrow's Tuesday, the 17th. We're going to have the chance on the 17th to question our property tax valuations at the Truth in Taxation meeting at 6 p.m. So sometimes these meetings, nobody is there. I've walked into them by accident and I realized, oh, you didn't have to sign up in advance? Well, okay, yeah, I'll say something. Hey, audit. Let's audit the expenditures. Like you said, if you did a man in the street, woman in the street interview downtown and ask people, put a microphone up and say, how have you benefited by the 17 billion, 19 billion, a billion here and a billion there, and
Yeah, what's a billion?
yeah,
What's a billion?
well, you're talking about a lot of money. So, I mean, but you say,
billion.
Look around your horizon, use your cell phone, use an app. What do you see on this horizon that's worth, because we live in the second largest city now, not the third anymore, but the second largest city in Minnesota. What do you see around here that your tax money went to? Do you see anything? And you see closed up buildings, you see closed restaurants, closed bars. You see they took down the drunk fence downtown Rochester. They took that was worth a lot of money. Somebody got that fence. It's in storage somewhere. Lots of artwork, painted garages for 10,000 here. Back of a building got a mural, 20,000 there. They painted the side of the library. I'm not sure how much that was. I heard a number. I don't want to say it out loud. It was crazy. But where's the money going then? And who are all these people who think that our taxes are going to pay for civilization? I'm not seeing much civilization around here. Not much at all.
And we've got, I've never seen more panhandlers, and that breaks my heart. That makes me sadder than you could ever imagine. I mean, these poor people come here, they get put on a damn bus or a plane, they get flown up north. Half of them have never been in weather below 70 degrees, and now it's 17 degrees outside. They've got to be thinking, what in the hell have I gotten myself into? And, they literally don't speak our language because we don't make anybody assimilate anymore. We just open the doors. And so these poor people are already screwed before they even have a chance. And so they end up panhandling. God only knows what they have to do for their money. We've got homeless encampments that we didn't have 10 years ago. And, I'll tell you what, thank God we have so many bike paths. Thank God, because I was so worried that we wouldn't have quality, good bike paths.
And nobody ever on the bike path. Who wants to be in the middle of traffic with the turn lanes over here on your right-hand side and the fast lane of traffic's on your left-hand side, and everybody's pissed off because there's a bike lane. Yep. Nobody wants to be in the bike lane. I mean, look at all the accidents that happened yesterday. And
people are on their phone. They're driving, looking at their phone. They're not even looking at the damn bike lane. So you're already dangerous if you're in another car. Imagine being on a bike and you got kids and adults literally with their face buried in their phone driving on these roads. It's almost Russian roulette riding your bike or one of those Lime scooters downtown in those lanes, because good Lord above, nobody's paying attention anymore. Nobody pays attention. Nobody.
No, it's not feasible. It's not sustainable. It's green energy, and Mayor Norton herself said that in the future there aren't going to be bicycles downtown, cars. No one's going to be driving downtown. So there's a point to be making it uncomfortable. They call it traffic calming, but everybody's getting more frantic. We sound like we're ranting, but anybody who drives in Rochester really knows that the tailgating is real, the speeding is real, the blasting through red lights is real. Nobody's obeying like basic rules of the road when it comes to coming to a 4-corner stop. and giving the right of way to the person on your right hand side. The etiquette is all destroyed because nobody's driving by the same rules of the road. We have international folks that are here as well. We're going to do whatever the hell they want as they're driving out there. But it's a lot like the people that they've tricked. I want to go back to the homeless for a second, because some of those investment properties that they've created for what they call affordable housing, somebody should look into these investments and who's really making money off taxpayer dollars by creating something they call affordable housing and multifamily dwelling units, and then the state taxpayers are funding these houses that are constructed or owned by wealthy investors. It's not affordable housing. I want neighbors who can afford their own homes, who own their own property, who are able to enjoy their own yard and their own garden and mow their own lawn and have some sense of responsibility for the place. Hey, by the way, Kenny, all during the election season, again, I drove by these government projects, these housing developments paid for by the government, and there's Democrat DFL signs out in front of the property. Now, how is that okay when the taxpayers are really funding this building to begin with? How is it okay to put a Democrat running for Congress, their sign out in front of that property? That's wrong.
We see it all the time. We saw it everywhere. And, thank God Brad Finstead won in a landslide, because, I never really doubted that. But it's like you said, the rules are not for me. They're for everybody else. What is it? The rules are not for
not for me. The rules are for thee, not for me. That's the Democrat slogan. Yeah.
So you get into those situations where you're looking around and you're going, well, this is just ridiculous. I mean, all of the coverage and open-ended letters and follow-up stories and stuff, it's a challenge. I mean, I ran for Congress 2.5 years ago in the special election. That's how all this started. And I did it as a nobody. And I did it on purpose because I wanted somebody like you or me or my neighbors or my friends to charge in there and see if we could stir the shitstorm a little bit. And you know what happened? There was like 10 people in that race, and we were number 4 or 5 the whole time. We kicked their ass in the debates. We did out incredibly, but we were not the chosen one. I literally got enough votes to speak in front of the entire CD1 delegation, which was unheard of because I'm a nobody. And I got through the first round and beat a career politician in Nels and got to the next round. And people were just shocked. But Wes, it's not because I'm this amazing candidate. It's because I'm them. I'm us. They're me. Yeah. And they're like, this guy is not. This is the way, but they had chose, so they chose. So then I ended up going and running for state senate, knowing that we were going to get clobbered. But by this time, we kind of created a little bit of a machine. I had some people that helped me and did certain things, and Lon Furshaw came on board, Jim Hagedorn's old campaign manager, and gave me direction and kind of taught me, how to do these things. Because Kelly and I were literally just a 2-person team. And then running for the House of Representatives because we thought this was going to be an opportunity. And it was an amazing year. I mean, we can step back and say, yeah, we didn't have the success, but how glorious was it on that November 5th night when they announced that President Trump was going back to the White House? I mean, I was so sad for all of the people that knocked on doors, that made phone calls, that put lawn signs out, that waved flags, that did all the things that you and I appreciate and are humbled by. I mean, I was very saddened for them because I really wanted to win because we are right. But you know what? The president is going to be Donald J. Trump. And if the good Lord would have said, Kenny, I got news for you. You can be a state representative or you can choose Donald J. Trump as your president.
Yeah.
Pick. I would have picked Trump 10 out of 10 times. 10 out of 10 times.
I was very happy election night. It was a huge victory for all of us. It was a huge victory for America. And back when some special Holy Ghost reached out a finger and tipped that bullet just so and turned President Trump's head just so, that angle, and that bullet just slipped through his ear. So we all knew that when the blood was drawn, that was real. That was real. Now, America, you've been granted a reprieve. What are you going to do with it? And he stood up and he said, fight, fight, fight. He took a bullet in the head. Okay. The ear is connected to the head bone. I'll allow it. He took
Well, you know what was the worst? Wes, when they were going, oh, this is staged.
President
This was all staged. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. Trump literally had faith in somebody with a sniper rifle that was going to shoot at him and not kill him, but hit his ear. And then, oh, yeah, by the way, they're so dedicated to the cause, they were going to let themselves have their heads blown off by the Secret Service.
Right.
That is one
That's
hell of a
set. Right there.
That was, you know what I'm saying? That was
Democrats spun to try to make it less than what it was. It was an act. I mean, that I saw that. And to think that, oh, yeah, he's going to turn his head just so a moment after the trigger's already pulled, so that as the bullet's flying through the air, he's turning his head just as the bullet. No, the Democrats went through everything, they went through everything they could do to try to undo that miracle. It was a miracle.
It was. And thank God. I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of the president right now, it would be devastating for him to get killed. It's just, the minute you open that box, Pandora's box, anytime you don't like somebody, they just get whacked. I mean, give me a break. Are you out of, it's like, it's almost like those people that are that radical and crazy, they need to be really careful what they wish for, because if all hell breaks loose, they're the least prepared to defend themselves.
That's right. That's right. We should probably change the subject now, because I think we know too much about how that would actually, they don't think about the future very much when they topple a statue or they rearrange history to fit their narrative. And what they've done lately is way over the top. They've pushed a bunch of people toward recklessness. And I'm very happy that they didn't, and a lot of them say they wish that, Trump had died that day. That is a stupid thing to wish for. That is very, very unwise. Revolutions and civil wars are not pleasant, but look what they stoke up in the Ukraine or Syria. They're just hoping that they can get one of these places to pop off so that Russia and the United States will start fighting each other, and then you'll have the last two Christian powers on planet Earth going after each other. And of course, having white people shooting at each other or Christians shooting at each other is going to be a big victory for people like Biden and his whole, whoever's running the government right now behind Biden, because he's not in control even of his bowels. So you can't really think that he's running the ship of state. But in the run up to the next election, what can we do to try to lay the groundwork for success, to unseat Walz? It looks like Walz was really exposed on a national stage, and everybody was thrilled that, all these things that used to be conspiracy theories, all of a sudden everybody's talking about the corruption in Minnesota and the fraud, all of the various kinds of fraud that took place. What are going to be some, moving forward to the next 2 years as we plow ahead? What's up with that?
Well, we've got to have a fantastic candidate. We have to. We can't have people that are lukewarm. We can't have people that don't have charisma. We can't have people that aren't magnets for people to be drawn to. We've got to find a candidate that is, there's nothing against Dr. Scott Jensen. I think he's a great man. Some people are talking about Emma running. We need somebody that is Trumpian almost, that draws people to them, and they're eloquent, but they're real charisma. We've got to find somebody, because you know, we have to do something different, because when you can watch a city and a state burn to the ground and the leader of that state literally sit back and do nothing, and now we've found out that his crazy wife was opening the window so she could smell the tire smoke and she thought that it was a revolution. I mean, these people are too damn stupid to realize that a lot of that smoke that was bellowing into those windows was that of minority-owned businesses being burned to the ground by a bunch of raging lunatics, many of which were white people setting those fires and creating
Right,
that
right.
chaos. And Mexican people were losing their business. Black people were losing their business. Asian people were losing their business. And you know what? This moron is wafting in the fumes thinking this is a revolution, but yet he gets elected back in. And so we have to have somebody that can not only bring people to their feet when they speak and draw silence because they're speaking something that is enthralling it, but we have to find somebody that's handsome and good looking and commands a room. And I just don't know if we've found that person yet. I really don't,
Yeah.
because we need something different, Wes, because we've got
Yeah.
the right idea. We've got the right.
So
we need somebody that you and I look at and go, damn.
we need the candidate and we need the issues. And you reminded me of a third component of that. We need to have events set up that will highlight conservative principles. So we're going to need a team of activists that will actually provide an alternative. I'm just going to say it, to the League of Women's Voters, for instance, or the Farmers Union. I was surprised that, I went to that event in Byron,
Yep.
and as well as I did, or because I did as well as I did, the KAAL news team did not release their footage to the public. Now, they filmed that entire event.
Yeah, they did.
And I called the station manager and spoke to the newsroom and said, release the tapes. Show everybody what was said on the microphones. The Democrat as a whole, the Democrat, I call them, I use the singular when I speak of the Democrat because I think of them like the Borg. Like the Borg. They're one unit. They move together and they absorb
It's a
new tech.
gigantic amoeba.
They take
It's
in
an
other
amoeba.
people. They co-op, they take in issues and they co-opt people's interest groups and they take in races and spin it. But no, the Democrat as a whole did very, very poorly. If the public were allowed to see the recordings from that night of the Farmers Union, I think people would be appalled.
Well,
Dan
Joe
Cepeda did
taped
well.
it.
You did well. All of the Republican candidates did very, very
Yep.
well, but we were not allowed to see it.
No, and Joe taped it, and he had
Joe,
it. And I don't know if it's still there, but I watched it, and I I don't know how any of us could have done any better. But the thing is when you only have 150 or 200 people watching it, and there are people that are going to vote for us anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. And you and I both know that, because, and I'm sure you learned that running for office, we've got a great core of people, but it's almost like every time we go somewhere to talk, and I'm never upset about it. I'm so thankful to see them. They almost become family. But you get that same 50 to 75 people that show up for all of your events, but they're already there for you. We need 75 to 100 to 150 new people at these things to hear the word, to spread the gospel, so to speak. But I'm sure you saw it too. You would go speak
yeah,
somewhere and you'd be like, oh, this is awesome.
yeah.
But the same folks that we consider family. And I'm so thankful that they care enough to come listen to us. But you and I both know we need that reach to be much vaster.
So what maybe one way, I mean, you're making me think of an idea, maybe one way we can do that as Republicans is to just do more conversations like this where people can really get to know about our policies, our positions on policy and explain those things and get to know us. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think people know more about Andy Smith or more about Kim Hicks or Liz Bolden. Actually, people don't know anything about Liz Bolden when you really think about it. Nobody knows shit about Liz Bolden. That is all like, oh, you know, and nevertheless, they say they just tick down the D column,
Yeah,
and our
or Chevy,
people don't
or
really
Chevy.
think like that.
And it's frustrating because when you can sit on a stage with somebody and have them say something, I'll never forget this. I remember because we were doing the League of Women Voter debate, and Liz was sitting next to me, and one of the only things that we agreed on, and I remember thinking in the back of my mind when she said it, well, because I knew I was in a really tough spot, but at least it's on tape that she agrees, because the whole reason I did this was because I was always in and out of elderly people's home for my job, and I saw how they were struggling and how hard it was for them to keep basic fundamental things, and then they're on the verge of losing their home, and government just keeps on taking and taking and taking. They don't give a shit about these poor people. And that's why I ran. I was like, well, this is unacceptable, because I can go out and get another job. These people can't do that. They've worked their whole life. So I remember when she was sitting on the stage and they brought up Social Security's taxes, and I was like, it needs to be done away with. It's just double taxation, if not triple taxation. It's ridiculous. And it's one fast way to get money back into the pockets of seniors. It's not even that much money, but it would make a difference. And she says, well, I agree with that. And I thought in the back of my mind, well, that's kind of a win, because I mean, here we are. That makes me feel good. That maybe that's going to get done. And then she was a vote that said, no, we're going to keep on taxing it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shame that they can say whatever they just say whatever, and
Yeah.
then they don't hold, and nobody holds them accountable. They don't hold them accountable. They don't give a shit. It's like they lie directly to your face. They literally lie to your face. So I don't know. It's
Agree.
so infuriating, Wes.
Yep. No, absolutely. And we're going to have a new way of moving forward in Olmsted as this town moves toward number 2, again, population wise, second largest city in Minnesota. If we want to be increasingly urban and increasingly taxed to pay for God knows what. We're told that taxes are the price we pay for civilization, but we're not seeing much civilization around this place. I mean, I'd like to oh, there's going to have to be some new ideas coming forward. And, like you say, a good candidate, and there's going to have to be issues. And I think there needs to be a look at communication and how we get the message out to bypass that legacy media that controls the dialogue and controls public discourse in
Yep.
Rochester.
And
Yeah.
the saddest part about all this, there are candidates out there that can do that, but the state GOP is not going to help anybody that is not one of the chosen ones. And we're going to get stuck with somebody that is maybe not overwhelmingly eloquent, maybe not overwhelmingly charismatic, maybe not overwhelmingly good looking, maybe not overwhelmingly in command of all of the topics. But you know what? They've put in their time, and it's their turn. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of the most frustrating things, because I don't know who a great candidate would be, but I do know several candidates that wouldn't be great candidates. And unfortunately, I fear that that's going to be the wheelhouse that we're in. And like I said, I have nothing but respect for people who run for office. But if we're going to get serious about winning, damn it, we've got to get somebody in there that is somebody that's beyond anointed by the state GOP. It's going to have to be somebody that the people look at and go, this person is special. And whether it's a beautiful, smart, intelligent, very articulate, educated woman of color, or just a beautiful, articulate, educated, well-spoken woman in general, or a specimen of a male that has all of the attributes that we're looking for. They're out there, Wes, but we
Yeah.
got to find one. We
I
got
wonder
to
if it wouldn't be good, like we said in conversation earlier today, we have a whole lot of experts that tell us how we're supposed to do stuff. Wouldn't it be great to see somebody, and I could name names, I don't know if I should, but these people that hang on to the data and they crunch the numbers and they think that they're brainiacs and they want to run the party from behind the scenes and they want to be the ones to pick the candidates. And they come from the retired executive class of Mayo Clinic or IBM, or they come from corporate investment background. Those people, or let's say they're a business owner, since they're behind the scenes choosing the winners and choosing the losers all the time, maybe they should go ahead and step up or just really be like, we can name names like during the next election cycle. I think I'm going to be dropping names a lot more than I have in the past and just saying, look, everybody, let's see this guy who's been behind the scenes running everything like a puppet master for 8 years, 10 years. Let's see that guy go ahead and show us how it's done. And then we can be done with this. But some people do want to be the puppet master, instead of the puppet. And nobody wants to be the puppet. But
we spoke about this today, about how, people will approach you and say, well, we've got candidates that we think we can win. They're more moderate. They're this, they're that. And I always kind of giggle because, Wes, you've known me now for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Am I just a rabid, crazy, lunatic, right-wing whack job? I really don't think I am. I think,
no,
I think,
neither am I.
But I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
You and I talked about the things that some people are worried about. I'm worried about taxation, our children, and safe streets. That's what I'm worried about. And I don't know that that's that crazy or out there. And so when people come to you and go, well, Wes, not that you're not a good candidate, but we got somebody we really think can run and win this, or just they're more moderate. And it's like,
more moderate.
Well, who are they?
They got a grant from DMC or a nonprofit organization run by DMC, and they got a grant to open a business, and then they're a successful business owner because give me $50,000, I'll open a business, and maybe it'll run for 5 years, maybe it won't, but I never got a discount to purchase a building. Nope. I never got $200,000 to do a renovation on a building. I can find subcontractors to do something. Give me a building. I have a little bit of savings. By the way, I probably have more capital saved up. I would hazard a guess that I have more in savings than Andy Smith did when he moved to Rochester, and some awfully powerful people backed Andy Smith and set him up to run for office. And by the way,
as soon as he got his spot,
I would have been content with running a movie theater. I would have been content with running a coffee shop like that. I would have had Kurosawa film festivals on Monday, Itami Juzo film festivals on Tuesday. Saturday mornings, there'd be Laurel and Hardy and silent movies with all of the great silent film stars on Saturdays, along with Little Rascals just for fun Saturday afternoon. But you know what? Friday night, every night of the week, I would have, Fellini films on Friday night.
Old Westerns, True Grit.
Yeah. So that guy, did he know anything about movies? Did he know anything about running a business? And what was his business model? All the Democrats said he was a genius. So what did he do? He went bankrupt. So
quickly, very soon thereafter, he won, and ironically enough, the theater was just fodder, and that's sad because, we always talk about level playing fields, but you and I both know it.
Yeah.
Like I said, they can tell you, oh, we've got somebody that we know can win. Really? So you explain to me why any Democrat is going to vote for a moderate Republican when they can just get the Democrat. They're not. They're not. And as a matter of fact, this race was very obviously. I got quite a few Democrat votes. I know I did. I got a lot of independent votes, and you know they're dropping these numbers at 136 in the morning for whatever reason. Olmsted County must be antiquated beyond the realm of reality. We're great at building bike paths, but we can't count votes for shit. And you know, and
Up all night. The computers were having problems.
Yeah.
No, and then of course,
frustrated the hell out of me because, you know, when you put your heart and soul into it, and you take the early emails that just say things that are just so disgusting, and they attack your families, and they truly show the ugliest part of society, and you just plow forward, go into the storm, you just keep going into it, and then you don't get the results you want. It's very frustrating. But you know, I don't regret ever running. I feel bad though. I'm not gonna lie. For every person that gave me $15, $20, $100, $500, $30, $2, I feel bad that we couldn't win, because that's who is important to me, and I'm sure it was to you too, because they 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 want so desperately for change, and they want to win, and you want to deliver for them. They become almost like family. We got to win, and you're like, I know, but it's like, it's just really frustrating. It's frustrating. Huh. That's the most frustrating part of the whole thing, is not winning and having to see those poor people that you know were depending on you so much, and you couldn't deliver and get the job done. And that is the thing that keeps me up at night. It's the one thing that bothers me. And I'm a person of faith, and I understand that it wasn't my path, but it's still, Wes, it eats me. It eats me. It eats me. It doesn't let me go. Not yet, anyway. But Trump winning helped a lot. It helped a lot.
Yeah, that's a blessing for us all. I mean, I really feel good too. And I mean, we're wrapping it up, but I'll say a really positive thing is like the day before Thanksgiving, I was running some errands around Rochester, and no less than 4 times, women who were half my age, probably mid-20s, gave me compliments. And I don't know what was going on that day, but they said, "Hey, thank you for running." And they were like whispering this at work. And I have no idea who these people were. Another one, I won't say where I was, but it was at her place of employment. And I was checking in for an appointment. And she said, "My husband follows you on Facebook. We watch your stuff all the time." Looking around, "Thanks for everything you do." It just like warmed my heart. And I just, it was this casual contact. But that day, the day before Thanksgiving, I almost did a video about this, but I just have been too busy. But I was really moved how many people cared enough to notice. And it's a little bit scary having people recognize you, because I know I've got the enemies, the Chicago and the Minneapolis clubs, the 4S type thing. I don't know, but I've been told in the restaurant industry, the people in the bar industry, "Hey, Wes, look out, keep your head on a swivel," But you find people thanking you for having run too, don't you? People thank you.
It's incredibly humbling, and it happens even to this day. Somebody would be like, "Hey, we voted for you," or yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. It's actually pretty common, to be honest with you, which is flattering that people at least know, that some people were paying attention. I got to ask you a question, because, everybody's talking, this is a national thing. I want to pick your brain on. And these drones. And I kind of giggle because I'm like, the drones are out there. And I heard something today, and it kind of rattled me a little bit, because it almost makes sense. And did you hear anything today about these drones and what they think they might be doing?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things, but which rumor? I mean, which theory are you hearing about?
The nuclear device, and they're trying to
Uh,
use detection mechanisms. And out of all the stuff I've heard, that was the one today that made me kind of stop and go, "Oh shit, that
so then they are
makes
it's
sense."
American military, but it's not. That makes more sense than any other theory because I thought that they were maybe swooping around to like heat sink something on RF. What frequency would you call that? Like a it wouldn't be RFID. Well, it could be there'd be radiation
Yeah,
detectors that could
it's the
pick that up.
radiation
That would
what they're
radiation
looking
detectors.
for. And I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but I know that these damn drones are out there, and it's obviously either a big distraction, or B, they are really trying to do something. I don't think they're alien. Give me a freaking break. I
Oh,
think that
oh.
they're absolutely man-made. And when today was the first day I heard that, and I kind of just sat there with my coffee, and I kind of was like, holy shit, that actually makes a little bit of sense, much more so than all of
So
the other stuff.
absolutely. And here, the honest truth is the way that the world works. If we if we had a missing nuke right now, even the Chinese would want us to find that.
Oh
Even
yeah,
the Russians would want us to find that. All the nuclear powers run by normal people would want us to find that nuke and resecure it if we had a missing nuke. And then the thing I'm saying to people over and over again, and you see these people online, and some people there's fake videos. I think they're AI videos of people shooting weapons in the don't pop your
no,
firearms off. It is not a good thing to do. There may be an element of people that are trying to produce these bizarre videos to get people to do copycat stuff and pop off and start shooting at flying objects. Don't go along with that. Nobody should go along with doing something like that. That is highly irresponsible and just uncalled for. People shooting over the rooftops of buildings in New Jersey. Your rounds come down somewhere.
yes they
And
do. What
they
goes up comes down,
comes
and it
down.
comes
You're
fast
even
enough to kill you.
especially at a Saudi Arabian wedding.
Yeah,
People, if yeah, right up in the air, big AK-47, and yeah, it all comes down, and people get hurt that way, and you get a lot of other people in trouble, including yourself. So don't do any of that. But no, this drone stuff. I'm thinking that what President Trump is doing right now has been so useful and helpful for America, turning the caravans around. There's one big one that started up again now, but getting world leaders to talk to him on the phone. He's already giving us 3 bonus months of a presidency.
yes he
Uh,
is. He
Macron
is.
knows he Macron knows that Trump gives a better handshake than he, and Trump's going to kiss his wife right in front of him, and yeah, break a few fingers and then go in for some kisses, French style, with on the cheek, of course, with his wife. But the bays, right? The bays. But um, Trump is back, and it's going to be glorious, and it's going to help Minnesota. Even the lefties and the libtards will benefit from President Trump's presidency. Can't be helped. You're going to have winning, a lot of winning going on.
More affordable energy. You're going to have more affordable. Your stocks are going to go up. Your retirement's going to get better. And we talked about that this afternoon. It's almost like, damn, you can bitch and complain all you want, but your life is going to get better. So just enjoy the ride, and
Lefty.
just be disingenuous and true to your far left self. But your life is going to get better too.
Right, right. Whether you want it to be better or not, you want us to cry over your cats and your bottom surgery, but your life is going to get better. Don't worry. Just stay away from those hormone blockers and you should be fine. Well, Kitty, we have a lot more to talk about. Let's do this again sooner than later, and let's have a lot more of these conversations. I think more people should be doing this kind of thing and just start producing content. You never know who you're emboldening, who you're helping inspire to do their own kind of content production, and
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Kenny.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you. I'm proud of you for running your race. And, listen, it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but we learned an awful lot. And I think we got our message out there. And I don't know how many folks follow you, but I did watch your interview today with the school board. Is that the superintendent? Is that who that gentleman is? And I watched that today, and it was awesome because you were very fair and you asked hard questions. And he's a fairly I think he's a decent person. I really do. I was impressed. So, but those are the types of things that help, and you're not stupid. You're highly educated. And when you have an opportunity to sit with somebody like that, you treat them fair, and that's how you should treat them. But you want certain answers, and we need to find certain things out. And I thought it was well done. So I enjoy it, and we should absolutely do this. And who knows, maybe we're the next Joe Rogan podcast. We talk about the things of the day, and
probably the fourth person to compare this to Joe Rogan within in as many days. That
is it the PBD podcast? Peter David or PBD? Him and three of his buddies. They have this podcast now, and it's gigantic, and it's crazy. I mean, you never know. With technology the way it is, if you get a decent looking set, a little bit of technology, you can almost look like you're on News Nation or something. And if you're interesting to watch, people will watch. It's an amazing thing. I watch YouTube all the time. It drives my wife nuts. And she's like, how can you watch this? And I'll flip over and I'll go, they have 2.6 million followers, honey. Do you have any idea how much money they're making? And she goes, they're talking about nothing. And I said, isn't it glorious? It's the American dream. It's what you like, and it doesn't happen overnight, but you build it and they come. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Way better than television.
You bet your ass, because if you want to watch something,
conversation. Not a lot of people know how to talk to each other and have conversations. So there's another usefulness to this, is that this is how people used to spend their winter nights, in conversation.
With such a long brandy or something, a little bit of brandy, and you're talking about all the good stuff, or maybe a little bit of Jack on the rocks, but it's fun. But listen, it's been awesome. We're definitely going to do it again, because I think that whether we like it or not, we're both leaders within the realm of this movement that we have. We've had a lot of folks that we call friends that are mutual. And like I said, crime, taxation, education, you can't go wrong. And you know what? On any given day, you and I could go through Drudge Report, Breitbart, and whatever else, and pick 4 or 5 topics of the day, and we can make it interesting, because there's enough lunacy, bullshit, and nonsense out there for us to be busy for the rest of our lives, without question.
Absolutely. Right. And thank you very much. And let's do it again. Is all I can.
God bless, man. I appreciate you, Wes. Be good.
Thank you, Kenny. Good night. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, indeed.